Okay, so we are just letting the attendees come into the room. Alex, I'm going to disappear and I will leave the session to you.
Thanks, Alicia. Right.
Okay, so I think that number's probably settled for you, Alex, if you want to get going.
Brilliant. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here. So this webinar is a part of the programme for the Theatre Show Online and presented by the Association of British Theatre Technicians. My name is Alex Cann. I'm a elected trustee director and board member of the ABTT. Normally at this time of year, the ABTT will be working hundreds, including thousands of colleagues to Alexandra Palace for the ABTT Theatre Show, designed very much opportunity for both exhibitors and visitors to get face to face and reforge essential introductions, connections and friendships. For the second year running, however, we are unable to present an actual event in June, but we're extremely excited to be co-locating the theatre show with Plaza Show at Olympia from Sunday the 5th to Tuesday the 7th of September in autumn. There will be an ABTT hub within the show floor, while the same conversational ambience that we're used to at Ali Pali. We're very pleased to be collaborating with Plaza in offering our industry the place for some real face-to-face conversation. Visitors can register their interest on www.plazashow.com/register your interest. And I encourage anyone who's interested in exhibiting with the ABTT to get in touch with the office. For now, however, we are pleased to be able to present a wide range of seminars across the 2 days of what would have been the theatre show and extend into the third day later in the week on Friday. Today, I have great pleasure in introducing our panellists for the fourth session, which is titled The School Theatre Support Group. Some quick reminders about arrangements for the meeting. As with other Zoom webinars, we recommend selecting gallery view so you can see all the panellists at the same time. The button for this can be found on the top right corner of your screen. And although they're not live closed caption subtitles this afternoon, the webinar will be recorded and posted on the ABTT website where the subtitles will be available by clicking the CC button in the YouTube viewer. During the webinar, please feel free to use the chat function to talk amongst yourselves. And this button can be found at the bottom of your screen. Alicia, the ABTT's coordinator, with whom many of you have now communicated, will be looking after this today, and she will say hello to you all in the online chat now. You may like to let us know where you're joining us from today, and please do share your thoughts throughout the event. We'd love to hear from you. Alicia will also use the chat to post useful links and information throughout the webinar. When the screen share function is used, the screen will reorganize itself to display the shared visual content, but will return to the previous screen when the sharing stops. You don't need to do anything. Most importantly today, we are very keen to address your questions. At any time during the webinar, please do post questions, thoughts, comments, etc. that you would like our panelists to discuss during the Q&A in the tab, which may also be found at the bottom of your screen. We'll try and discuss as many questions as possible, so do post them as soon as you can. As mentioned, the webinar is recorded and available on the ABTT website, along with other relevant information after the event. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the panelists, and I hope they'll each wave at the appropriate point. So firstly, there's Jennifer Lewington-Chislett, who's the Performing Arts Technician at Sir William Borlase Grammar School in Marlow. Then we have Chris Stone, who's the Theatre Technician at Mulberry Schools Trust in London. We have Peter Humphreys, who's the Theatre Manager at Cranley School in Surrey. He will potentially attend later on, he's around, Paul DeRose, who is the Theatre Manager at the Lees School in Cambridge, and obviously myself. So there is the introduction. So I'll now hand over to Jen, who will talk to you more.
Hi guys, give me 1 second. I'm just going to I've got a little presentation to share with you. So give me 1 moment to set that up. So welcome to you all. I'm Jennifer. I'm one of the STSG committee members, and today myself, Peter, Alex and Chris are going to tell you a little bit about STSG, here we are, etc. We'll also tell you about our Performance Support Award that we've developed for students. We'll then talk to you about technical production and venue management issues in school, particularly about some of the continuing challenges that we're all facing because of the COVID-19 restrictions. We'll then tell you a little bit about what we've got in store for STSG members in the future, and then it will be over to you for questions. So please feel free to ask, as we said, as Alex said, ask as you go. If you've got any questions, and we'll come to them at the end. So let's get going. So I'd like to pass over to another one of our committee members, Peter, who's going to tell you a little bit about school theatre.
Good afternoon, all. Theatres or performing spaces in one form or another have long been part of most academic institutions. Schools have recognised the importance of performing arts for developing pupils' confidence, communication and teamwork. Some spaces are used solely for teaching or drama. Others are used for a wide range of school events and performances. School theatres range from studio venues to large professional auditoriums. There are schools with traditional theatres, to those with state-of-the-art new buildings. There are school halls held together with the smallest of budgets, to theatres operating commercially and who host visiting professional shows open to the public. The theatre is often at the heart of the whole school, bringing together pupils, teachers, parents and external visitors as a meeting place and shared amenity, showcasing the school to the wider community as well as providing facilities for the presentation and teaching of drama and other performing arts. School technicians are responsible for managing and maintaining the performance and rehearsal spaces within the demanding environment of a school. The job is very similar to that of theatre technicians working in the industry. However, they are often single-handedly designing, coordinating, building, and running several productions at once, as well as supporting teaching departments, managing external lettings, organising meetings, maintaining equipment, and keeping everybody safe, all while encouraging and training up-and-coming young technicians, designers, and performers. Now we'll pass over to Chris, who will talk to you more about the STSG.
Thank you very much, Peter, and good afternoon, everyone. So STSG was founded in 2005 as a support and networking organisation for professional theatre technicians working in educational establishments. As theatre practitioners in a teaching environment, school technicians occupy a unique and sometimes isolated situation outside of regular theatre, but with the same products, rules and issues that typical theatres face. For this reason, the founders felt that a network of school-based theatre technicians would be mutually beneficial. This group is open to all professionally employed theatre support staff working in schools, colleges or other educational establishments, primarily technicians and managers, but also anyone with an active interest such as teachers who may be responsible for the technical side of productions. The majority of our members work in secondary schools, but we do have a few members from primary or prep schools, colleges and universities. We have a very strong membership base from a wide range of independent schools, state schools and other institutions around the whole country, with all manner of facilities from professional theatres to drama classrooms. And this allows us to share ideas and problems specific to school theatres, as well as keeping in contact with those working in a similar environment. We are also an information resource for those teaching drama or working with young people in other areas of theatre. The group is run by a voluntary committee and chaired by Paul DeRose, who is one of the founding members. And I will now hand back to Jennifer.
So I'm going to chat to you about why you should join the STSG. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about my experience going to the first conference. So my first conference. So I suddenly realised that I was no longer in a little bubble all by myself in my school, that there were in fact many, many other technicians around the country who dealt with the same day-to-day issues. And I thought this was fantastic. I was like, yes. Finally, some other people who knew the challenges of having people try to teach lessons in a theatre whilst also having many performances and events held daily. And in addition to the marvellous conference, by joining, I suddenly found myself in a network of new contacts that I could ask people about recommended equipment on a budget, sharing best practice, hear about job vacancies, things really specific to schools. I could even choose to go on some training courses if I wanted to. And I quite enjoyed the fire marshal training that we had and I went along to. That was excellent. Over the past 15 years, STSG has also seen increasing awareness and acceptance of the professionalism of school theatres from our industry contacts and peers. I think it's one of the key things that we're about. We have obviously connections with other industry organisations, including NISDA, the National Independent Schools Drama Association, and Stage Management Association. One of our regular supporters is RB Health and Safety, who also provides free health and safety advice to members, as well as discounts on training courses and audit services, which is excellent. Since 2014, we've been officially affiliated with the ABTT, which has meant we've been able to gain wider recognition of theatre work within our schools, as well as providing access to important industry contacts and safety information, which leads me on to hand back to Alex, who is our representative from the ABTT, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about how we benefit from ABTT involvement with STSG.
Thank you. So, as Jennifer said, the ABTT has been supporting the STSG for just over 6 and a bit years. I am a trustee director of the ABTT, which means I sit on the ABTT's council, which is our committee basically that overviews everything the ABTT does and supports. Part of my role on that is I connect the STSG's committee with the ABTT. So I come along to the STSG's conferences and meetings, listen to what people have to say, take back points to the main ABTT council, discuss those with our council members and explain situations that people are coming up with and facing, as well as I also am able to do the reverse. I'm able to take discussions from the ABTT back to the STSG and discuss those in reverse situation there. There is, which I'll talk about shortly, a rather exciting opportunity we've managed to recently complete, which will enable people who have worked through the STSG's Performance Support Award to actually get formal recognition with this, which will help them with their future applications to drama schools, etc. So it's actually a really interesting time for the ABTT and the STSG to sort of enhance this partnership that's working really well, and enable the members of the STSG to also have a bit more say within the ABTT. So I'm going to hand you back over to Chris, who's going to talk to you now a little bit about the Performance Support Award for those of you who don't know about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, it's a great pleasure to talk about this award. And this is another key part of STSG's work. And STSG are involved in the development of the award and also its administration. The award is freely available to all STSG members, and it is designed to be run in schools and colleges. The award was created to recognise the achievements of students who are working on school productions, often as part of tech teams, and this may be by attending extracurricular clubs or undertaking production skills as part of their studies, perhaps in GCSE or A-level drama. The award is not an academic course, although it can be incorporated into a curriculum if required. And we are aware of many STSG members that are doing that, whether integrating it into a Key Stage 3 for years 7 to 9 curriculum, or integrating it into the GCSE coursework. But it can be delivered whatever works best for that educational establishment. There are no time limits or exam dates, which offers lots of flexibility. We have developed a framework for the award, and this is important to ensure that there is a level of consistency across everyone or every young person who is completing the award and every centre that is delivering it. And the framework works a bit like a lesson plan or scheme of learning that a teacher might use to help a technician run the course or work out what to do in their after school workshop. So we hope it can serve that purpose as well. It was really important to us that the award was accessible as possible. And that's accessible to all schools that have varying levels of equipment and facilities, but also accessible to all learners that want to find out more about working in production arts, backstage and theatre or events. Through the completion of the award, students will develop a portfolio evidence. And again, to ensure accessibility, we have left the approach to evidence gathering to be really flexible. So some choose to use video clips, so maybe a video clip of a student rigging a lantern to demonstrate their rigging skills, or a diary for a costume creation and going through the process. Of course, then there is all the paperwork that you would complete doing those roles, such as patterns or lighting plans, cue sheets, that can be submitted as part of the student's evidence. It was launched in 2015 and it is under constant review. We held a symposium with STSG members in 2018, 2019, and we have just a couple of weeks ago held this year's symposium, and that gives STSG members the chance to hear about updates to the award and also give feedback on what they think's working or what they would like to see changed. And there is a PS Award subcommittee that takes that feedback and looks at integrating that into the award. As well as receiving feedback from members, we have got feedback from industry professionals and ABTT committees as well. So I'd like to move on to the award itself. There are currently 8 units, and you'll see those listed on your screen now. 7 of these are available in bronze, silver, and gold level. One of them, that's the first unit, General Performance Support, is only available in bronze, and that is a compulsory unit that all students completing the award must do, whether they're aiming for bronze, silver, or gold. The structure of the award is that to achieve bronze, a student must complete the General Performance Support compulsory unit, plus 4 other units at bronze level. To achieve silver, in addition, they must complete 1 objective from 2 that are available in each silver unit. And then to achieve gold, additionally, they must complete a gold objective from 1 of the units. And we're quite flexible on whether they mix and match units or whether they want to pursue all the units in a certain field or certain discipline. As I say, as students progress through this award, they do build up this portfolio of evidence, which the student can then use as a demonstration of their experience and competence that they can take to university interviews or job interviews. With regards to moderation, so the award is administered by a volunteer committee, and we have talked about moderation at length and what the best way to manage that is. At the moment, bronze and silver are moderated internally by the centre and by the lead teacher or technician who's running the award at that centre. The gold, however, is moderated externally by an STSG volunteer moderator who has applied to do that role, and we have selected based on them being competent to be able to look at the work and check that it's valid and that we can award that gold award to that student. So I'm just going to dive into one of those units just to show you specifically how that's structured. So every unit is very similar, and in the downloadable PDF, every unit has 2 pages that look like this. The bronze units have 4 objectives. 1 is generally theoretical, 2 are more practical, and 1 is very much focused on health and safety. And that was really important that we embedded health and safety through every unit of the award. As you'll see for the silver unit, there are 2 options. And generally one of these is more theoretical and one is more practical. And that gives centres the ability to tailor the award to maybe the facilities and equipment they have, or of course allow the student to pick what they feel they're most comfortable with, whether they want to do more of the theory base or whether they want to do something more practical. The objective for the Gold Award is to bring everything together and for the student to undertake a professional role and treat it as they would professionally. So that combines a bit of everything and does require the theory and practical together. We do encourage those schools that if they don't have facilities or equipment to seek out through the network, and there are sharing opportunities and possible opportunities to go and visit professional theatres to carry out elements of the award, or visit other schools that have complementary facilities. So through the SDSG, a great thing about the STSG network is it is possible to collaborate with other schools. This is a version 3.6 that we are on at the moment, and version 4 is going to be launched in September, which will have minor updates to some of the units, but it will include a new unit on front of house and marketing, as we are aware that there are many schools that have student usher teams, students creating the marketing material, and it's really important that that work can also be recognised through this award. As I said at the start, the award is freely available to all STSG members, and it can be downloaded from the members section of our website. Alex has already touched on this, but I just want to hand. Thank you. Certificates available, which will be on the website, and these certificates can be downloaded and awarded to the students. And we are really encouraging schools to make a big thing of this. So present certificates in assembly, graduation assemblies, end of term assemblies, end of year events, to really celebrate the achievement of the certificate. Isn't downloadable. That is posted specifically to candidates that have been verified that they have completed that award. So Alex touched on this at the start about the relationship the award has with the ABTT, and I just want to hand back over to Alex now just to talk about this amazing offer that the ABTT have given to all students that complete the Gold Award.
Thanks, Chris. So just in case people lost a little bit of what Chris was saying there, the bronze and silver levels certificates can be downloaded from the STSG members site. The gold certificate will be something that once the module has been validated by the STSG's volunteer validator, moderator, it will then be sent out relevant to you. So as Chris said, and I mentioned a bit earlier, the ABTT in its support has wanted to recognise this really excellent scheme that the STSG runs, where it looks after the development and training of the many students that are under your wings, learning valuable skills and hopefully following this award. So we thought it's a bit of a shame to not actually acknowledge this in a proper way, that and therefore shows people how important this award is and the level of actual skill that people have gained. So we discussed with the committees, both ABTT and STSG, and we have agreed that once a student has completed the gold level of the award, and that has been moderated, and then some admin has been sent over to the ABTT, you will be able to sign up your student as a ABTT Young Associate member. There will then shortly be a box on the website or some way, we're just finalising the small details on that, where you can say that you're signing up somebody who has completed this level of the award. Once they have completed this, they will then have 1 year's membership for free as a way of a prize or recognition that they have completed this award. That will give them access to things like our magazine Sightline, access to our website and the members sections on there, as well as also gaining them some interest and insight and connections with members of the ABTT from similar age groups right up to our full corporate members. So it's a really great opportunity here for people to get their students actually the recognition that they really deserve, because a lot of the time the recognition goes to the people that are on the stage rather than those behind the scenes. And now they complete the award, they can come out with this and also get their ABTT Young Associate membership. It's worth pointing out at this point that also we are already hearing, both through the STSG and through some of our education members of the ABTT, of students taking along information about the STSG Performance Support Award to drama school university interviews and saying, I've completed this award, this is what I've done. So it's a real benefit that this scheme exists, because it's actually something that now universities are starting to see and understand what it actually does and what it stands for. So it's a really great thing. We look forward to having the first new young associate members come through on the scheme shortly. I'm now handing back over to Jennifer, who's going to talk to you a little bit about production and technical management and venue management in schools.
Thank you, Alex. So since March last year, school theatre technicians and managers, we've had to adapt to a huge amount of changes in a very short period of time. Some of you were on furlough, but others like myself found themselves chained to a computer, endlessly video editing. And as schools have returned, we found ourselves in a very different environment, and we're having to balance two sets of rules, one for theatres and one for school, and trying to make them mesh. Some of us have been able to produce live performances for streaming, some haven't. Some have done in-person live performances, some haven't. And there's also been additional challenges with student participation. For example, my tech theatre group is normally a group that meets with 5 different year groups, and suddenly I had to break them all up into a smaller cohort. Instead of doing 1 club, do 5. So things like that. During COVID, STSG launched a weekly, I think it was a lunch meeting for its members. And that was, I found that a really great source of comfort in some ways, to log on and see familiar faces, and also chat about, you know, what everyone's going through and all the different issues. You know, schools all seem to have slightly different takes on things, and it was sort of it was really interesting to find out, you know, how other people are getting on, and then in some cases taking those things and applying them in our own spaces. During the autumn term, I think we went from weekly to fortnightly, but we started to discuss specific things, such as live streaming, which Peter will talk to you about in a minute. And we also ran some online training courses, including a very popular COVID-19 compliance officer course from RB, which was excellent, which means some of us can now wander around saying we're compliance officers, which is excellent. So I'll pass on to Peter at this stage, who's going to talk about live streaming on a budget.
Thank you, Jennifer. So the effects of the pandemic can be very clearly seen on our industry. Venues have been forced to close and staff have been put out of work. With no clear path to reopening venues and allowing audiences to watch live events, online streaming played a big part in getting theatres back onto stage. Schools were in the fortunate position of being able to put shows together due to bubbling, but without their peers, parents, or the general public to watch. The only way to have an audience was via a screen of some variety, whether it be a live stream or a recording. All schools are going to have a couple of video cameras laying around. Add to that a vision mixer and a computer, HDMI capture card, and you have the basis of a streaming setup. To increase the quality, you can add a USB mixer to introduce some room and radio mics to improve the quality. Of course, you may decide that streaming isn't the way to go. Either your internet connection isn't rock solid, or the show can only be produced in sections to be COVID compliant. Then recording in YouTube premieres might be a better idea. This gives you the time to edit your production, add titles, but still has the excitement of a live production at a set time on an evening. I'll now pass to myself again to talk about how schools have had to deal with multiple sets of rules, one rule for the school and one rule for the theatre. What works for general school doesn't always work in a school theatre. Safeguarding privacy and health and safety all play a big part in everything we do, whether on stage or not. Items as simple as a quick change can have major implications and need to be thought through in detail. I always find the simplest and best solution when unsure on this matter is to consult the management within your school using the ABTT Yellow Book for guidance. If you need to find a middle ground, try and find a middle ground between what your director wants, what the school will allow to happen, and what your professional opinion tells you to do. The STSG members are also here to answer your questions. You can email out to the group or find people local to yourself that you could perhaps visit. I will now pass to myself again and talk about how the STSG has been good for raising the awareness in the industry of professionalism in school theatres. One of the biggest issues we hear about from our members is the disconnection they feel between themselves and the school. Usually it is because they are the only person within the department, but there is also some confusion about their role within the school. They can be classed as support staff, but work closely with students, so can equally be teaching staff. They may work the longest hours in the school, but are not taking home the biggest paycheck. The STSG is here to remind members that you are not alone. There are many out there in the same position, and together we form a strong community. We also promote the great work our members are doing whilst providing students with professional work environments. Gone are the days where the average school production involved only rostra and a couple of PAT 23s. As subject popularity grows, so do the budgets and requirements to achieve higher quality shows. Our connection with the ABTT gives us a seat at the industry table and a place to demonstrate just what can be achieved by a school, even when they only have a few rolls of gaffer tape and a pack of cable ties. I'll now pass back to Alex.
Thanks, Peter. So as I've mentioned before, you as ABTT members, hopefully all of you are full members. If not, you can sign up. You follow some information on our website. When you renew your membership, you can say that you wish to become a member of the STSG. It doesn't cost you anything. It actually gives the STSG extra financial support, which goes partly into supporting the Performance Support Award. But it's a way that you can make connections from the ABTT through to the STSG and vice versa. So you actually get the best of both worlds. You also are really helping there with the sharing of information between both sides, but also gaining valuable information from both sides. So it's a reciprocal arrangement, really, and it's something that I would strongly advise you to do or look at next time that you have to deal with your membership renewals. So I'll pass over back to Peter, who's going to talk to you about the STSG's conference.
Thank you, Alex. So once a year, the STSG members come together for their annual conference and dinner, which is held at a member school. Our last in-person conference was at Ampleforth College in Yorkshire. We provided seminars, workshops, and discussions about the industry in the form of a data networking course from AC Lighting, a Lola update from Sage Electrics, and a training session on augmented 3D from White Light, plus a hands-on props making session from Flints, where we tested some of their latest products, along with many discussions including health and safety, ways to support students academically, and advice on getting students into university. Members have a chance to meet colleagues from other schools, and create connections where they can impart useful knowledge, offer help, and even share theatrical items to help in the creation of shows. Robin is a regular speaker, providing an update on the ABTT's latest guidelines, as well as answering any questions we have on the organisation. In addition to the talks and training our sponsors provide, open time is available for delegates to speak to exhibitors and demonstrate products. Once the day is done, you can retire to the on-site accommodation before attending the dinner later that evening. 1, 2, or 3 day packages are available, making the conference flexible depending on your budget and availability. Although the 2021 conference had to be held online, which was still a very popular event, we will be returning in person to the Malthouse Theatre in Canterbury for 2022. The conference is available to any paid up STSG member. Jenny will now talk more about the training.
I mentioned earlier about STSG offering training courses intermittently. As restrictions lift, we're hoping to be able to offer some 1 or 2 in-person training courses again. I think particularly we're hoping to offer within the next 12 months a working at height training course. And the advantage of us offering those courses is obviously because we can offer it to more people at once. So rather than someone coming into your school for to train 1 or 2 people, they're coming and they're training a full cohort, which means those costs come down for schools somewhat. And I think to access those training courses, or at least to find out information about them, you need to make sure that you are a member of STSG. As Alex said earlier, if you're already a member of ABTT, then you can get automatic membership for STSG. However, if you are not a member of either, then you need to go along to our website. It's free until January, so you can sign up today, and it's free till January. You can make your decision about it over the next few months. If you are just going to join us and not ABTT, but you should join ABTT, then it's £7 for the year, or I think it's £10 for your school if you've got sort of 3 technicians, having them all as members. So that kind of brings us to the end of us chatting to you. Thank you for listening to us, and I hope there was some useful stuff in there for you. So now we want to hear from you. So get those questions in the chat, and hopefully you've all shared who you are and where you're from as well. But I'll pass back to Alex now to look after us for that.
Brilliant. So great, we can see each other a bit more now. So as Jennifer said, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen that you can click, and it will open up a new pop-out window that will enable you to ask a question in typed format. We will then pass that over to members of the panel to discuss and answer where possible. There is a perfect example done by John of Cars Software that makes a WYSIWYG and Black Tracks. So it gives you an example of the type of thing that we're looking to hear from you about. So while you formulate your questions and we prepare for this avalanche of incoming discussion that's headed our way, it might be worth talking a little bit about working hours and how the members of the panel are finding the needs of working in school theatres. For example, the requirement sometimes to be in for early morning assemblies versus having to put on a show that's running till maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. So who wants, don't put your hand up, just whatever you answer, and then we'll start from there.
I can start. So I'm in a state school. I'm the only performing arts technician currently here. So my working hours have recently been quite good because we have not had any evening shows. Shame, because I miss those. But they can be really long. I'm on a full-time contract, so I think it does depend on people's contracts. I know some people have annualised hours. I don't have that. I'm very much left to my own devices, really. They just assume I do as much as I do my full hours, which I do and more. So I have to take my holiday during the holidays, unless we have people in, which is very rare, actually, for us. So usually my holidays are a chance to tidy up after when the students have strewn stuff about. But it can be, I do have a bit of flexibility in that we do have morning assemblies, but I usually train up students to make sure that if I've had a very late night, I don't have to necessarily get there dead on the dot. yeah, so I think I'm quite a lucky position in that respect. Yeah, but I know Peter and Chris, you're in different circumstances.
Yes, so I'm in a independent school. We've actually got 2 schools, and I always look forward to, once the show is open, if you've got a multiple night run, you think, well, once we're on to the 3rd night, I can come in at sort of midday to do the, you know, they won't need me in the morning, there's no rehearsals, but there'll always be another project around the corner. There's always multiple things. Like Jenny said, this year it's been quieter due to COVID, but it's not been dead. There's always multiple things going on. I'm fortunate we actually have, where I am, a few video technicians, so I haven't been editing. I don't do assemblies, but certainly workload hasn't quietened down. I find it's best not to try and make a note of hundreds of hours you're owed by the school. You're never going to get them back. And actually, if you look at you need to adopt the sort of mindset of a teacher, whereas you work hard during the term and then you take the holiday back when you can during the holidays, you know, and then you have to look at external lets and commitments, and you have to have a discussion with your school about what's practical. But trying to say, well, I'm owed 200 hours this term at whatever my rate is, you're not going to get that. So I think trying to adopt that mindset from early stage is a mistake. I don't know what your thoughts are, Chris.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm at state school, very similar situation to Jennifer, actually. Yeah, and it's been interesting, actually, because I wouldn't normally be involved with assemblies, but since we've started streaming them, then I have been coming in early to do them. But yeah, that's all part of everything that's happening. But yeah, it's just planning ahead, thinking what needs to be done, and just trying to manage your time accordingly, really.
And not being afraid to get a haircut halfway through the day if you've got a free half hour, which is my normal escape.
Brilliant. I think Andrew Taylor has commented in the chat saying that working in a school is more of a way of life than a 9-to-5 job. I think
completely.
Those of us who've done this have definitely would agree with that.
Certainly, in my experience, I would say that I'm lucky in that the powers that be recognise my flexibility and those hours that I put in, which has meant on the odd occasion when I've wanted to take part of a day or a day out during term time, they've been flexible with that, because they know that, you know, I'm coming in late, I'm coming in early, as long as they're always happy. Because I keep my calendar and I'm always looking at what's coming up. I put everything in that calendar. That they can offer me that little bit of flexibility, which has been useful over the years. So I think it's really good to build those relationships with whoever your line manager is, whoever's looking after you, so that you can negotiate things. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to be there for an exam. You know, I'm going to be there for a big show, but I might not do that assembly. It's putting it in, it's prioritizing things, I think.
I think it's also it's worth saying that obviously one of the things that happens a lot in holiday time that people have to bear in mind is inspection and testing. These venues work beautifully during term time, but at some point you will need to have someone come in and electrically certify your venue, certify it for Lola, test your electrical equipment, make sure it's all up to standard and working, or you spend time cleaning lenses and lanterns, putting away that cupboard of props that's been thrown in there after show after show after show. So it's very much, like Jennifer said, a conversation between both you as the technician or theatre manager and your line manager, whoever that is, whether it's the bursar or the head of department for drama or similar. We've had our first question. So Ali Pottinger has asked, do you have lots of young people with an interest in technical theatre? So, I mean, there can be quite a simple answer, or you can go into more detail. So over to you guys.
Yeah, I can tackle that. So I know at Borlase, tech theatre is really big. It has grown over the last, I've been here 12 years, so it's grown in a time. When I first started, there wasn't a junior tech team. So I created one. I was asked to create one. I did that. And so now I have year 7 to 11 who come once a week. They all mix in together apart from this year. And they kind of learn up. So it's lovely because in the sixth form, we run a production arts course, which is tech theatre. And I've got some that have done it from year 7. So it's really nice to kind of build that team. And what I find actually is that some of these students aren't necessarily going to be your popular students, but what they find in tech theatre is they often find their kind of place in the world. And certainly here, I put an emphasis on, I get them on the writing desks. I get them doing stuff and putting them, getting them into, moving them towards leadership roles within a show. And it gives them confidence. And I've got one student in year 11 who's just gone off, and he was telling me he's got a job in a pub as a waiter. We started off, I think, just glass collecting, and then he's progressed to waiter. And he was telling me that he was telling his employer in the interview about tech theatre and all he was doing. And we were discussing it. I discussed it with him, and he feels very much that, he is so confident because, when I work with them like I would, someone else, a colleague. I very much work with them. Obviously, I'm still responsible for them and I'm looking after them. But I do kind of, when I work with them, I work with them like that. So, and it gives them those skills, which apparently is already paid off. He's earning loads of money in the pub as a waiter. So it's great.
Had a taste of his first beer. Chris, were you going to come in with something?
Yeah, so we're in a slightly different situation. So we're based in Tower Hamlets, and across our trust, we have a very, very high proportion of students from ethnic minority backgrounds. So a lot of the work we do is around promoting the arts as a viable career and expanding the students' awareness of all the different routes, all the different careers and disciplines that are out there. And there is many years of work that has gone into that. And that actually led us to opening up a university technical college in 2017, which does have a specialism in performing and production arts. But yeah, so I run after school tech clubs. As I say, we've got a school that actually has a dedicated course and dedicated facilities. But from September, we are going to be integrating the Performance Support Award into our Key Stage 3 curriculum. So all year 7, 8 and 9 students through those 3 years will get an experience of 5 or 6 disciplines within production. So that's about encouraging more of those students to then think about pursuing a career in the industry.
Brilliant. We've probably got time for 1 or 2 more questions, but don't forget, please ask away in the Q&A tab if you have anything you wish for any of the panel to discuss or answer for you, and they'll do their best. So probably the next question to talk about is, the next subject to talk about is lone working. So either previously just through employment policies at the schools that people are working in, or through, sadly, even redundancies where schools are saving money, especially with recent issues such as COVID. There's quite a lot of time when some of us have had to lone work. So how have members of the panel, how have you found lone working, and how have you put in plans to stop the risk from that or reduce the risk where possible? Don't all jump in at once.
I suppose I'm quite fortunate in that one of our sites is it's a PFI school, and so there is a leisure centre that operates it after 6 p.m. each night. So I don't really have to worry too much about lone working when I'm in one of our theatres, because there is always someone on site, and they're there till sort of 10 p.m. and at weekends. So generally that covers us for what we're doing. It is slightly different at our other theatre, but usually, because if it's outside of hours, it requires the building to be open, and we'll have facility manager on site as well. So I suppose I'm quite fortunate in that I don't encounter a lone working situation very often.
So we have 3 theatres here, and I am the only technical person. We're looking at bringing in more staff, but in the meantime, we have various methods. I have a fall arrest GPS device. So if I fall from height, the device will go off and it will ring someone to come and find me. In terms of manual handling, we have great departments within the school that I can call on, domestics, estates, works, to come and give me a hand when I need to move things. They'll move things in vehicles for me where needed. But also it's analysing the venues and looking at what's needed. So we recently replaced our scaffolding and taller scopes with a cherry picker. Obviously, the cherry picker, I wouldn't use that without anyone around me, but I just email out all staff and say, would anyone like to come and do your marking in the back of the theatre, just in case I fall out the basket. And a change of scenery is sometimes what teaching staff like, which is quite nice. What I've also been analysing is looking at what's in your workspace. Our props are all stored in the roof of our theatre, which is above a plaster ceiling. So we've analysed that and we've actually moved it to a underneath the stage, which is a much safer area to work. And then looking at is there a way to lower socket pex cables from the grid without going to the grid? And that's something we're working through at the minute. So I think it's just all about assessing your work processes and finding workarounds that you are happy with and the people around you are happy with as well.
I think from our point of view, our space is really busy, so it's limited time for me to ever be in the space. So I'm quite lucky in that when we're setting up for a show, it's usually just before the show, and there's loads of people around. In the holidays is when I'm most likely to be lone working, but you know, if I'm going up the tower, I will just let someone know that I'm going up, and come and check that I haven't fallen off. But most of the stuff that I do lone working tends to be, you know, just walking around the building that I'm in, you know, checking things are still there, that kind of thing, or you know, video editing a lot of late.
Brilliant. So we're going to try at least one more. Maybe we'll see if we can get 2 out of this. I know that we said we would run till 6 o'clock, and people are probably quite keen to get home for food. So equipment purchasing. So it's obviously nice to buy the latest flashy, shiny toys that you can find in ABTT or the Plaza trade shows. But is that necessarily the right purchase? I think, Chris, you were going to talk about this one to start with. So over to you.
Yeah, I can say a bit on this. I've been very fortunate to be involved with the fit out of both of our theatres during my time at Mulberry. And during both of those, I haven't actually been given a budget to start with. I've been asked to submit a proposal, which then has the total amount and then hopefully gets approved, or I've had to make a few cuts. But it's a very fine balance, because school theatres are demanding environments. You've got equipment that's going to be used by students. It's going to get moved around a lot. Obviously, not too dissimilar from any other theatre, but the other important thing for us was that we wanted equipment that students would come across in the industry. And we really thought about that when choosing sound equipment, when choosing lighting equipment and everything else, that it was industry relevant, particularly if we were training students to go into the industry. That was really important to us. In my time doing the research, I found the ABTT and Plaza trade shows really useful for going out there, speaking to suppliers, speaking to manufacturers, trying to really find out what's going to work best in our situation. I think the other thing about school theatres is that, or performance spaces within schools, is that they're often used very flexibly. And so you need equipment that's going to be able to be flexible in how it's used and cope with the variety of work that happens. But you know, it is difficult because it is how long is a piece of string. But I've tried to always, I've wanted to go on quality and things that are going to last, and use that as sort of the deciding factor, really.
Yeah, you know, I very much agree with that's how I look at it. The other thing I look at is if we're hiring something a lot, I will go to I will go to the powers that be, and I'll go, do you know what, it costs this much and we could have it and we can use it for all these things. I'm quite lucky, in fact, that our heads used to be deputy head and the head of performing arts. So she's quite, you know, when I go to her, say, can I have this? She quite often finds the money for it, which is excellent. But obviously, that's not the case in many schools. But I think it's about, you know, sometimes framing it in something that would be good for the wider school as well. I remember when I was trying to get money for a new projector for the theatre, I ended up going through the Parents Association, and they funded that because it was obviously a significant amount of money for a space like that. But I could say, well, you know, you've got everyone's in there for assemblies, you've got talks, we've got lectures, all these other things that are happening. It's not just performing arts that need it, or it's not just for theatre. So I think that's, you know, if you're trying to look at funding equipment, that's one way. Another thing I always look at is, again, can students pick it up easily? We used to have, with sound equipment, we used to have a Yamaha A1V, which only I and one other student ever was able to work. And we changed and we got Allen & Heath QU24, which is much easier for them to use, and it's just a blinding bit of kit, really. So there are things to kind of take into consideration, because ultimately I do want a year 7 to be able to sit there and press a button, as well as it be good enough for a year 13 to go off to RADA or Guildhall or Central or LIPA and, you know, have, you know, look at equipment that they've seen before. So it is a balance.
Sorry, just to finish that point, create relationships with companies. Fortunately, through the STSG conferences, we have the directors of White Light and the, you know, Stage Electrics. We have high people in the ETC come, and you can sit down and you can talk to them. And I'm fortunate that I can call on these people. And it's not about getting 80% off an order. It's about what they've got, what they think is going to work. They want you to demo it. You want to have a look. You want your students to have a look. And it's about creating a relationship. Don't just go out and buy the latest thing on theatrelighting.com or whatever the current cheap website is. Find out what works for you, just like Jennifer and Chris have said.
Yeah, I think I'll just round off, which probably sounds very much like I'm saying the same, but I was fortunate to be in previous role purchasing rather large amount of equipment for Mount View when it moved to its new building. So being an educational environment, we had to very much, like Chris said, look at what is the industry relevant equipment. We had plenty of times when students come up to me and said, Alex, I've seen this at Plaza, it's brilliant, can we buy one? I go, yeah, you can buy one. That's then most of the budget spent. Is it worth buying one of those, or is it worth buying 20 of these that will actually become more relevant and more useful to you? And definitely come along to the ABTT Plaza Theatre Show later in the year. Join the STSG if you're not already a member. Come along to the conference, meet up with people. There's some interesting chat. You get to meet some suppliers, have a conversation with them, make some great connections. And there's normally pretty good drink and food at the end of the evening to make it into a fun night. So really go out there, do your research. Don't be afraid about spending the money slowly. Don't feel you have to go and spend it today and get the latest thing quickly. We spent nearly a year doing the research at Mount View to make sure we purchased what we thought at the time was the best quality equipment that we could A, afford, and B, needed. I think that's pretty much us on time for the end of the session today. So just like to say thank you very much to Jennifer, Peter and Chris for attending. Thank you for the ABTT for hosting the session today, and for the work that Alicia and Paul Jaros, I think he's listening somewhere, I don't think he's showing his face anywhere, have put into organising today. And if you have any more questions, please send them over to the STSG or through the ABTT office, and they can get passed across. The team will happily answer them. Failing that, go on the website, sign up, become a member of both groups. And we look forward to seeing some of you at either the conference or the theatre show. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. Bye.